Hello! This is going to be the very first of my playlist on my YouTube channel called Read Alouds for Grown-Ups. Mainly I'll just be doing things in prose that have to be read exactly, kind of like reading to little kids, but something I hope you will enjoy watching and listening as well. And for my first selection, I've chosen something that's been with me for a long time, ever since high school, as a matter of fact. When I was in high school, I bought a collection of pieces by one of my favorite writers, E.B. White, Second Tree from the Corner, and I encountered this piece in it, which I really enjoyed, and I hope that you will too. Two letters, both open. New York, New York. 12 April 1951. The American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, York Avenue and East 92nd Street, New York, 28, New York. Dear Sirs, I have your letter, undated, saying that I am harboring an unlicensed dog in violation of the law. If by harboring you mean getting up 2 or 3 times every night to pull Minnie's blanket up over her, I am harboring a dog all right. The blanket keeps slipping off. I suppose you are wondering by now why I don't just get her a sweater instead. That's a joke on you. She has a knitted sweater, but she doesn't like to wear it for sleeping. Her legs are so short they work out of the sweater and her toenails get caught in the mesh, and this disturbs her rest. If Minnie doesn't get her rest, she feels it right away. I do myself. And of course, with this night duty of mine, the way the blanket slips and all, I haven't had any real rest in years. Minnie is 12. In spite of what your inspector reported, she has a license. She is licensed in the state of Maine as an unspayed bitch, or what is more commonly referred to as an unspaded bitch. She wears her metal license tag, but I must say I don't particularly care for it, as it is in the shape of a hydrant, which seems to me a feeble gag, besides being pointless in the case of a female. It is hard to believe that any state in the Union would circulate a gag like that and make people pay money for it. But Maine is always thinking of something. Maine puts up roadside crosses along the highways to mark the spots where people have lost their lives in motor accidents, so the highways are beginning to take on the appearance of a cemetery, and motoring in Maine has become a solemn experience. I was driving along a road near Kittery the other day, thinking about death, when all of a sudden I heard the spring peepers. That changed me right away, and I suddenly thought about life. It was the nicest feeling. You asked about Minnie's name, sex, breed, and phone number. She doesn't answer the phone. She's a dachshund and can't reach it, and she wouldn't answer it even if she could, as she has no interest in outside calls. I did have a dachshund once, a male who was interested in the telephone and who got a great many telephone calls. But Fred was an exceptional dog. His name was Fred. And I can't think anything offhand he wasn't interested in. The telephone was one of 1,000 things. He loved life, if by life you mean trouble. And of course the phone is almost synonymous with trouble. Minnie loves life too, but her idea of life is a warm bed, preferably with an electric pad, and a friend in bed with her, and plenty of shut-eye night and day. She's almost 12. I guess I've already mentioned that. I got her from Dr. Clarence Little in 1939. He was using dachshunds in his cancer research experiments. That was before Winchell was running the thing, and he had a couple of extra puppies, so I wheedled Minnie out of him. She later had puppies by her own father at Dr. Little's request. What do you think about that for a scandal? I know what Fred thought. He was some put out. Sincerely yours, E.B. White. And now for the second letter. New York, New York, 12 April 1951. Collector of Internal Revenue, Divisional Office, Bangor, Maine. Dear Sir, I have your notice about a payment of $200 and some odd that you say is owing on my 1948 income tax. You say a warrant has been issued for the seizure and sale of my place in Maine, but I don't know as you realize how awkward that would be right at this time, because in the same mail I also received a notice from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals here in New York, taking me to task for harboring an unlicensed dog in my apartment. And I have written to them saying that Minnie is licensed in Maine. But if you seize and sell the place, it is going to make me look pretty silly with the society, isn't it? Why would I license a dog in Maine, they will say, if I don't live there? I think it is a fair question. I have written to the society, but purposely did not mention the warrant of seizure and sale. I didn't want to mix them up, and it might have sounded like just some sort of cock and bull story. I have always paid my taxes promptly, and the society would think I was kidding or something. Anyway, the way the situation shapes up is this. I am being accused in New York State of dodging my dog tax and accused in Maine of being behind in my federal tax. And I believe I'm going to have to rearrange my life somehow or other so that everything can be brought together all in one state, maybe Delaware or some state like that, as it is too confusing for everybody this way. Minnie, who is very sensitive to my moods, knows that there is something wrong and that I feel terrible. I was packing a suitcase for a trip home to Maine, and the suitcase was lying open on the floor. And when I wasn't looking, she went and got in and lay down. Don't you think that was cute? If you seize the place, there are a couple of things I ought to explain. At the head of the kitchen stairs, you will find an awfully queer box-like thing. I don't want you to get a false idea about it, as it looks like a coffin, only it has a partition inside and two small doors on one side. I don't suppose there is another box like it in the entire world. I built it myself. I made it years ago as a dormitory for two snug-haired dachshunds, both of whom suffered from night chill. Night chill is the most prevalent dachshund disorder if you have never had one. Both these dogs, as a matter of fact, had rheumatoid tendencies as well as a great many other tendencies, especially Fred. He's dead, damn it. I would feel a lot better this morning if I could just see Fred's face, as he would know instantly that I was in trouble with the authorities and would be all over the place hamming it up. He was something. About the tax money, it was an oversight or mix-up. Your notice says that the first notice was sent last summer. I think that is correct, but when it arrived, I didn't know what it meant, as I am no mind reader. It was cryptic. So I sent it to a lawyer, fool fashion, and asked him if he knew what it meant. He wrote back and said, no, it isn't a tax bill. He advised me to wait until I got a bill and then pay it. Well, that was all right, but I was building a small hen house at the time, and when I get building something with my own hands, I lose all sense of time and place. I don't even show up for meals. Give me some tools and some second-handed lumber, and I get completely absorbed in what I am doing. The first thing I knew, summer was gone, and then fall was gone, and it was winter. The lawyer must have been building something too, because I never heard another word from him. To make a long story short, I am sorry about this non-payment, but you've got to see the whole picture to understand it. You've got to see my side of it. Of course, I will forward the money if you haven't seized and sold the place in the meantime. If you have, there are a couple of other things on my mind. In the barn, at the far end of the tie-ups, there is a goose sitting on eggs. She is a young goose, and I hope you can manage everything so as not to disturb her until she has brought off her goslings. I'll give you one if you want. Or would they belong to the federal government anyway, even though the eggs were laid before the notice was mailed? The cold frames are ready, and pretty soon you ought to transplant the young broccoli and tomato plants, and my wife's petunias, from the flats in the kitchen into the frames to harden them. Fred's grave is down in the alder thicket beyond the dump. You have to go down there every once in a while and straighten the headstone, which is nothing but a couple of old bricks that came out of a chimney. Fred was restless, and his headstone is the same way. It doesn't stay quiet. You have to keep at it. I am sore about your note, which didn't sound friendly. I am a friendly taxpayer and do not think the government should take a threatening tone, at least until we have exchanged a couple of letters kicking the thing around. Then it might be all right to talk about selling the place if I proved stubborn. I showed the lawyer your notice about the warrant of seizure and sale, and do you know what he said? He said, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything. It's just a form." What a crazy way to look at a piece of plain English. I honestly worry about lawyers. They never write plain English themselves, and when you give them a bit of plain English to read, they say, "Don't worry, it doesn't mean anything." They're hopeless, don't you think they are? To me, a word is a word, and I wouldn't dream of writing anything like, "I am going to get out a warrant to seize and sell your place," unless I meant it, and I can't believe that my government would either. The best way to get into the house is through the woodshed, as there is an old crocus sack nailed on the bottom step and you can wipe the mud off on it. Also, when you go in through the woodshed, you land in the back kitchen right next to the cookie jar with Mrs. Freethy's cookies. Help yourself. They're wonderful. Sincerely yours, E.B. White.